Joining us now on Skype from the UK is a UK solicitor, Olufemi Aino. Olufemi, nice to see you join us this morning. I hope you're safe and okay.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. So
Great.
nice to hear from you again.
I remember we discussed extensively on this topic about a year ago when the issue was on and very hot. It is back on the front burner right now again. But the judgment that was secured on Friday does not repeal the entire case, does not strike it out. But
Yes.
what momentum is it adding to the Nigerian argument?
Yes. First of all, before I go to your point, let me commend the Attorney General of the Federation for being able to put in evidence before that court that, look, this agreement right from the beginning was a massive fraud against Nigeria. And at the same time, by way of an extension, and without playing in opposition politics, one must commend the president of the country, President Buhari, and by extension, the vice president, who described this agreement as a fraud on the nation. That was his phrase in one of his memos to the president. But leaving that aside, this judgment has given a momentum that, look, Nigeria has been able to establish that there was a prima facie evidence of fraud by the P&ID people. And though we are not at the rooftop yet, but the judgment is evidence at least we have a ladder to climb to get to the rooftop. And I must confess, if you read the judgment, I have a copy of the judgment as we speak. I have a copy of the 60 pages Nigeria legal agreement before that court. And if you read, you will know there are a lot of, some of these public officials should bury their head in shame. While they've been receiving money from P&ID people, how they failed to cooperate with the lawyer instructed by Nigeria to represent at the arbitration. And it is a testimony that the whole agreement, right from 2013, was motivated by fraud. And what the Attorney General should do now, all these people should be rounded up, and by now they should be in prison. That's my take on that point.
All right, so this case has been going on for years, even though some people are just waking up to it. But it seems like this is the first major victory we're securing in this case. We lost on all grounds before now, whether jurisdiction, liability, and quantum. What do you think? What do you think that we did differently at this time?
Yes, what happened this time is this. If you want to appeal the judgment, you need to come because, number one, Nigeria delayed this for almost 4.5 years. And also, if you want to appeal the judgment, the only ground you have is to come up with evidence of fraud. And what Nigeria was able to put before the court is that, look, money exchanged hands between some officials at NNPC and the Department of Petroleum Resources, and at the same time, there was evidence that these people, the P&ID people, they do not even have the resources or the know-how to execute this judgment. And I must say to you, you see, the problem we have, the question we need to ask, how did we get to this state? One of the officials at the Department of Petroleum Resources received $50,000 bribe. That was put in his car. When he asked a question that, what is this for? The P&ID people told him that, look, we look after our own people. That aside, there was evidence that the legal director at the NNPC or the Department of Petroleum Resources at the point received money from P&ID people into her daughter's account in the US. And there was also an evidence that so many people, the senior advocate, even pay $100,000 to the officials at the NNPC. Two of them received $200,000. So if you look at all this in the round, you will see that, look, Nigeria is on a fertile ground to have this award set aside. And there is the possibility. But my major concern, which should be the concern of everybody, is that these P&ID people, they are very, very dubious character. And if care is not taken, we may end up, they may abandon the case, And there is also the possibility that if care is not taken, we may end up in a situation where Nigeria will not be able to recover costs. And what the Attorney General should do now at this stage, even I have some degree of admiration for him on this case, what he should do now, they should get them to make a substantial amount of payment into court as an interim cost. Because otherwise, by the time we get to the end of this case, which might take another 2 years, what is going to happen is that either they will file for bankruptcy or they will wound up the company and Nigeria will get nothing. But whatever the case, I think this judgment is something we should all be happy about, because if the judgment if it's done otherwise, we are going to pay $10 billion to these dubious people, and then that is going to have a significant effect on the resources. And also, I must make this clear by point of emphasis that all the officials involved, all of them should bury their head in shame, and the Attorney General should have them, they should be rounded up and charged to court, and if they have to go to prison or spend their retirement in prison, so let it be, because you cannot do this to your country. What happened? If you read the judgment, you will be ashamed about the conduct of all the people involved. I don't want to mention it, but their names are on the public domain already. And they should do the right thing, either by returning the money back to the federal government of Nigeria, or they should cooperate with the Attorney General so that they could be dealt with.
Okay. Now let's look at the substance of this case. And I want to look at paragraph 260, where the judge said that the fraud is complex in nature and still continuing. Do you think that perhaps this speaks to the breach in procedural rigors that people have to go through in securing contracts in the country?
Well, that is it. I think the lesson from here is that we need to try as much as possible to review the procedure, because there is something, I think on the face of it, is a very defective procedure, whereby you have public officials who are signing agreements without referring to the office of the Attorney General. You have a situation where lawyers are being paid substantial amount of money, and at the end of the day, what comes out of it, there is nothing. And there is an issue here whereby if public officers receive bribe, they will not cooperate with the lawyers in order to defend the case effectively. There are a lot of issues, and I agree with the Attorney General when he said, look, this is a learning curve, and what needs to happen now is either we set up within the Ministry of Justice the Department for Foreign Contracts, or we put a team together who knows what to do. Because what happened, some of these senior officers, they were just on a frolic of their own, signing agreements without referring to the Attorney General, even not dotting the I's and the T's. And in this P&ID case, it is quite disturbing that a legal officer at the Ministry of Petroleum Resources made a recommendation to the minister to sign the agreement without referring to the Federal Executive Council, without making sure that the contract is registered with the Technology Commission, without referring to the Bureau of Public Enterprise. How did that happen? That is the million-dollar question, which these people will either need to come in a witness box and answer. And they need to be dealt with in a very robust manner, because if Nigeria has to pay 10 billion, that is the amount. That is minus legal costs. We are not talking of the legal costs. Do you know, that is a substantial amount of money. How people can do that to their nation? It is something disturbing, and it is something that takes my breath away.
All right. Well, you're not alone in that feeling. I guess a lot of Nigerians feel the same way. But let's bring this issue home now. The P&ID case formed part of the petition that the Attorney General wrote against the EFCC chairman. And from the judgment on Friday, it seemed like EFCC received a lot of accolades and commendation in their input to finding evidence against the P&ID, which formed part of why the judgment, Nigeria got the judgment on Friday. So
yes, Mike,
has this vindicated the EFCC now? What should be the relationship between the Attorney General and the EFCC now, considering the pending cases between them?
Look, Mark, I take your point, but can I respectfully invite you to take my point? And my point is this. A case like this, there is the need for what is called a joint thinking. Okay. People need to come together and work as part of a team. And now you are referring to the EFCC. But don't forget, the EFCC, they only started to deal with the matter effectively after they received a directive from the president, after the Attorney General has even complained to the president. But notwithstanding, they did their best possible in the circumstances. And the way the investigation was actually carried out in a very punctilious manner. And one must, irrespective of whatever is going on between the office of the Attorney General and the EFCC, one must commend the EFCC because they were able, within a short period of time, after too much pressure, to get all the evidence together, get bank accounts. And there is a paragraph in the judgment which will make you laugh. When the senior counsel who was instructed was confronted with the bank statement that, look, this is your bank statement. He himself confessed he received $2 million for his legal fees. And he himself actually admits making a payment to the senior officers at the Ministry of Petroleum Resources. Whatever the case, one must commend the EFCC. But the point is this. We are not at the end of the case yet. There's still going to be a substantive hearing about the fraud. I know in your clip you are saying maybe there will be settlement or negotiation. That is one way. The flip side to that, there might even be a trial. And what is going to happen now, they need to work as a team. They need to work together. People need to be very careful because, you know, international flights just resume over the weekend. Private investigators are going to arrive in Nigeria. Some of them will be stealing beans from the Ministry of Justice in order to see how they are going to run their case. And that is why they need to get a shredder. People need to try to keep their mouth shut by not discussing because they don't know who they are talking to. And if I'm for P&ID, what I will be doing at this stage now that this is going wrong against us is to be looking for debt. And that is what the legal team of P&ID will be doing, trying to look for what they can use to overturn this massive allegation of fraud which Nigeria is putting across. But by and large, it is quite obvious there is a possibility this will go Nigeria way.
Okay.
UK Solicitor Olufemi, I know, thanks for talking to us.